The Colorado Buffaloes just landed another commitment from the wide receiver out of Marshall, EJ Horton. And today we have to talk about it. We have to talk about what the transfer portal holds for the Colorado Buffaloes and Coach Prime. But before we dive into it, guys, go ahead and hit that like and the subscribe button. Let me know what you all are thinking down in the comments below. If you are a Colorado Buff fan, are you excited about the recent commitment of EJ Horton to come to Boulder and try to help Coach Prime turn the Colorado Buffaloes around after a 1-11 season? So, after Coach Prime is trying to clean house and really try to bring in his own guys, the guys that are going to go out there, compete every single week, drive everybody in that position group to be better. I think that's important, right? Not only do you need to have guys that are buying into your vision, but you need guys that are good enough to challenge somebody else for a spot, a starting spot, whatever that looks like, so that they have the drive to be better. EJ Horton, a guy that was a part of the 2020 class, committed to Marshall, not a super high rated guy, a low 3-star guy, and he was like a top 3,000 player in terms of the 247 composite rankings, but currently coming in at about 6 foot, 180 pounds, originally from Louisville, Kentucky. And the 2022 season, you really saw EJ Horton. I think that's where you start to maybe see him break out just a little bit. It was really in those last, I would say, 4 games where he played Old Dominion, had 4 receptions. App State and had 1 reception. Georgia Southern, he had 2. And Georgia State, he had 2. He didn't do anything in UConn in the bowl game. But he definitely helped Marshall out a little bit last year in terms of production. He had 12 total receptions, 186 yards, 1 touchdown. He had 2 carries for 15 yards. So when I look at this, honestly, this just tells me, hey, this is a pure take for depth at that wide receiver position. You've got Jimmy Horn Jr., you've got Xavier Weaver. We know those guys are going to be studs for Coach Prime and Sean Lewis. You've got Travis Hunter, who I'm curious to see how much wide receiver this kid actually plays, because he's your best defensive player. I don't think you want to have him playing on the offensive side of the ball too much, because you need him to be on the defensive side of the ball, anchoring that defensive presence for the Colorado Buffaloes. But EJ Horton committing to Colorado and Coach Prime, which is interesting because we've seen, as Coach Prime has had quite a few exits out of the program, he has no problem bringing guys back in the program, because not only do you have this commitment, but you've gotten other guys too from Florida State and other places. Coach Prime's going to be just fine. I know people are worried about him in the recruiting trail. I've even made some videos talking about, hey, should we be worried about Coach Prime? I'm telling you, you don't necessarily need to, because you're getting guys like Omarion Cooper. You're getting guys like, who was the other guy from Florida State? I can't think of his name. But you guys know what I'm talking about. I think he's had a total of like 53 transfers out. So when you look at the list, it's pretty long. But Omarion Cooper at the cornerback position, he'll definitely help you guys out. But who could Colorado realistically be looking at now in the transfer portal? And, who are they looking at on the recruiting trail? Because I think it's important to note that the Colorado Buffaloes just got a Steve Wiltfong crystal ball in favor of Aaron Butler, the 4-star athlete, top 100 player. He plays some wide receiver. I think he can play a little bit of defense as well. But he got the crystal ball from Steve Wiltfong to Colorado. I think Greg Biggins still has him at Oregon. But this would be a huge win for the Buffs. This has been a guy that has really played with Buffalo fans for a lot, either liking Colorado content, trying to comment to guys like, hey, you know where the move is, things like that, keeping Colorado fans on their toes. Now, it is important to note, Aaron Butler does have an official visit set with Colorado on April 21st. They also have a official visit set up for June 2nd to Alabama and June 23rd to Washington. So this is going to be something that if you're a Colorado Buffalo fan, yes, you got to be excited that you got the crystal ball in favor of Aaron Butler, who is going to be taking an official visit to USC, I would presume, and was committed to USC at one point. But you also have to keep in mind all these official visits that he has going on. If he's going to go around and continue to shop after he commits to Colorado, assuming he commits to Colorado before he goes out and goes on these official visits, that's something you might want to keep an eye on, especially with Alabama getting a visit after Colorado. So Coach Prime's really going to have to work on his sales pitch. And in my opinion, he's really going to need to work on trying to get the last visit. I think that's where you win a lot of these games. But when you look at what Colorado needs in the transfer portal, definitely the defensive line and the offensive line, I think, are the biggest positions of need for Colorado. On the defensive line, you could go out there and get a guy like Siosi Fianu from Washington. He's an interior defensive line player. He played with Swells. That could definitely be an option. Dylan Brooks, another edge rusher, originally at Auburn. Maybe you slide him into the interior. Maybe that works. You could go out there and get guys like Sir Mells from Oregon or Jabarian Hopkins from Ole Miss. I point out these guys because they're playing in the SEC. They're playing in the top tier conferences. Those are guys that you're going to want on your team because, I mean, in my opinion, I think they're going to be leaps and bounds better than anybody else, maybe coming from a group of five, but that's just my opinion. Y'all might disagree. When you look at the offensive line, there are prospects for Colorado to go out there and get. You have DeAndre Buford from Kentucky, the former four-star. You have Cullen Montgomery from Oklahoma. I point that one out because we all know how good Bill Beatenbow is at developing offensive linemen. If the dude was there at some point, he obviously has some level of upside because, you know, Bill Beatenbow wanted him. You could also look at Miles Miro from Washington. Again, now you've got that connection with Swells. Maybe Swells could help you get a guy there. Jalen Clem from Kansas State as an offensive tackle. Guys, there are so many different possibilities for the Colorado Buffaloes. But I kind of want to hear from you guys. Go ahead, jump down the comments below. Let me know what y'all's thoughts are. Are you excited about the most recent commitment of EJ Horton to the University of Colorado? Additionally, what are your guys' thoughts on Coach Prime to Colorado? Because this has been one of the biggest phenomenons in college football. Coach Prime, he is taking the college football world by storm. Sometimes he says things that we don't all agree with, but sometimes it's what the players need to hear. It's what the fans need to hear. Guys, you should be excited for what Coach Prime is going to be doing at the University of Colorado. But jump in the comments too, guys. Let me know, how many games do you think Colorado wins this year? Because that's going to be an interesting topic of conversation for a lot of people as we get our preseason or our too early projections together. So, guys, if you haven't already, go ahead, hit that like, hit the subscribe button, jump down the comments below. Let me know what y'all think, and peace.